We're starting our Pilates class today. And today we're going to try something a little different. We'll be standing and then also using a chair or a low table for a prop of your home. You could use your coffee table, the back of your sofa, a windowsill, depending on the height you want and your height as well. So, but first we'll just begin by taking hold of your TheraBand. And we'll do a little chest opening here. So when you hold the band, you're gonna hold it lightly here, sort of between your thumb and your index finger. And let the band go pretty wide. As you drop it down, the band's center should fall right below your knees. And then you'll know that's about correct. Of course, it depends on the strength of the band. The tighter bands, you might have to go out a little further with your hands. If it's a really loose and lightweight band, you can choke up on the band here. Feet apart in parallel, and feet, here we go. So now we can pull the arms apart. Now the wrists are straight, and you reach out long for your knuckles. Then you bring the arms up above your head, and then take them behind you, opening the chest, and you bring the band down and slowly narrow your arms in. So at the end of the movement, the hands are at your side, and the loop of the band falls behind your knees to your calves. And then we pull the band open, keeping your wrists and your elbows straight. In effect, you're drawing a big circle with the band around your body, and you'll bring it forward. And then as you bring it forward, you can close the arms in, let the band fall again down below your knees. And we pull it open, lift it up. Now at this point, when you stretch it out, you want to be sure that you're not arching the back, which will be a tendency we'll have when you go into the tight spot across your chest and your shoulders. And instead, I'll show you on the next one, you need to engage the abdominal wall and keep the same length of your abs as you bring the circle back over your head. So you would start pulling the band apart, it goes forward and up. At this point, you want to exhale, pull the abdominal wall together so that you're not arching your upper back, and then lower the arms down behind you. And one of the things, if you're finding that the stretch is too much across the chest and the upper shoulder, slacken the band, take your hands closer to the ends. If you feel like it's not enough work, tighten up on it a little bit, and you'll get a little bit more stretch as you pull out into it, a little bit more work into the arms, a little bit more opening into your chest. Always watch that the wrists stay straight. We don't need to compress any of that carpal tunnel. Then reach as high to the ceiling throughout this movement. And we'll just do one more. Isn't that feeling good? Just a nice way to open your chest and really feel your weight grounded through your legs into the floor. Now from here, drop one side of the band and step forward on that with one foot. Now we can hold the band here, and I have my fist sort of held in my fist, again between the thumb and the index finger. Pull your elbow into your waistline and the other arm presses down to your side. And then you may want to kind of gather up the band a little bit in your hands so it won't be flopping in your face. We push the band up to the ceiling and then lean your hip into the band to side bend over. You can really push the hip out, even bend your inside leg and let the arm reach for the ground. Stretch out from your hand to your armpit to your hip. Feel the weight in your foot and then pull yourself up and slowly bend the elbow forward to lower the band down. And again, you can adjust the tension on the band by pulling the hand up or down. And we push up with the arm again, place the hip into your band, side bend over to stretch, lift to pull it up, and then bring it down. Now, if your band isn't long enough for you to do the standing, you can also do it kneeling with a shorter band. I would suggest that make sure you have something soft under your knees and maybe a ball between the legs. Let's do that again. So push up. And then you press the hip into the band. It's sort of like your racing strike. Take it over, let the hip fall sideways to the floor. Pull yourself up and then slowly release the arm down. We'll just do one more of these to push up into your band. Side bend here. Really try to open your rib cage into the curve of the band. The band ideally flat against the sideline of your body. Pull yourself up and then lower down. And then just take a moment, feel how you feel longer on the side you just stretched. much more open. And even if you breathe in, you should feel like you've got more breath available to you in the lung on that side that you opened through the ribs. So now we go, of course, to the other side. It's helpful if the band is not twisted with the start of it. So then you can step forward up to your band. Hey, Harley. And then hold the band here. Again, the flat band goes between your thumb and your index finger. You can gather up the band and then take it sort of behind the elbow a little bit. Push the elbow to your side. It can be like 5 inches apart or so. And you push the band up to the ceiling. Push your hip into the band. Your opposite leg can bend slightly. And you side bend over. Reach your free hand into the ground. And then pull yourself up a little bit at a time. Bend the elbow forward to resist the pull of the strap. And we go again. So reaching up. Hip moves into the band. You stretch your waist. You stretch open your rib cage. The ear falls towards your shoulder. You're still looking straight ahead. Coming upright. And then come down slowly enough that you feel the resistance that you're working against the resistance band. And we'll do this again to come up. Lean into your band. Graceful side bend over. Well, the graceful part, is up to you. And then we lift to come up. Some days it happens, some days it doesn't. And then bring it on down. And we do one more here. If the band feels too loose, you can always tighten up on it. And pull it back to center. And then lower it down. Okay, so next we can just put the band aside. And we are going to sit on your chair. You can sit on the floor if you want. Before we do some of the balance work, I just want to do a small, like a short massage for your feet, because standing on one leg is tricky unless you pay attention to how you do it, which I didn't. I just came into it and leaned away to pick up my leg, which is a problem for balance. So we're going to start sitting here. If you have on a sock or a shoe of some kind, take it off. And we're just going to begin by shaking hands with the foot. This came from my Franklin Method training, and it's really useful in order to wake up your sensory organs in your feet and create more awareness here of your body. So we'll thread the fingers through the toes. Your thumb wraps around the ball of the big toe. So using the opposite hand to the opposite foot. And you can have the heel resting on the thigh or the knee so that the foot itself is stable at the heel. And then just roll your wrist. It can be tricky initially to get your fingers through the toes. You can see why it's called shaking hands with your foot, because your palm is right to the underneath part of your foot here. And just roll it a few times. This should make your feet very happy, which in turn will make your day a much brighter day and a happier day. No one feels good when their feet hurt. And then from here, slide your fingers out from between your toes, but leave the thumb on top of that first metatarsal, the ball of the big toe. Wrap your fingers around so that your fingers are at the pinky edge of the foot. And then slide the foot over a little bit so the whole foot is free on the opposite side of your thigh. And then you'll take the same side. So I was using my right leg, my right foot, and I'll use my right hand to cup the right heel. And now we wring out the foot like you're wringing out a washcloth or a wet bathing suit. After you've rinsed it out, you've gotten out of the pool. Sounds like a good thing for today. It's beastly hot. And you spin the forefoot and the hind foot, the heel and the balls of the feet and the toes in opposite directions. You're just doing that wringing out action here with your hands. This is really good to both stretch and strengthen the arches of your feet, the inner, the outer, and the one that runs across the foot as well. And then for the last one in this series, you sit back a little bit, pull the knee up so the heel rests on the chair in front of you, and we're going to pull the toes apart, spread them open like a fan, or like a peacock's tail feathers. And you can also, with each of the toes, pull them away from the heel and wiggle each of the toes individually. If you have unlimited time, you could actually do flexion, extension, rotation to each of the joints in the toes, but that can take a fair bit of time. Save it for like streaming your favorite television show. And then after opening the toes, pull them apart, spread them wide. We're going to do the same thing with the foot. So you take the thumb and the heel of the thumb on the top of the foot and the four fingers on each hand underneath the foot and try to pull it wide and apart, working from the toes to the ball of the foot to the arch, and even picking up the heel and going into the heel, really digging your fingertips in. The idea is that you're really opening the foot and widening it here, giving a massage on the underneath part of the foot, your plantar fascia, and the top of the foot. You can probably see how the color and the texture of your foot is changing as you do this. And you can also compare it to the other foot. Just look down at it and see that they look different. And then we'll just release the foot down, take off my other shoe, and then look at your feet. Feel which one feels alive and which one feels like a little inert, right? Which one is happy and which one isn't. And if you come up to stand, I know, right? It's the advantage of being so pale, right? That you can really see, like this one is, it looks like 10 years younger in my opinion, but it's smoother, the skin is paler. The other one has like a reddish blue gray tone, which is pretty nasty. And I definitely see like more veins on the foot that I did at work, which is something I need to admit, but there it is. So, and if you try standing on the foot that you just worked, you should feel like that foot just feels more like glued to the ground. It's definitely more aware. The other one might feel a little less in control. But we have something to fix that with. So we're going to do the other foot now. So she's to the side. And we pick up the foot that you didn't massage. And we start with Eric Franklin's threading the fingers through the toes, called shaking hands with the foot. I find it easier to start with the pinky finger and the pinky toe and then slide the hands in. But if you haven't done this in a while, it may be a little tight to get your fingers really in deep there. And then once you have that, remember the heel is on the thigh of the other leg, and then you're rolling the wrist. A lot of times when we're thinking of self-care, we're not necessarily thinking about our feet unless they are speaking to us. But in Pilates, a lot of exercises on the equipment or on the mat start with footwork because we understand the importance of really having a strong, balanced, and healthy foundation. And even though a lot of Pilates is done on the mat, on the floor, or with that kind of support from our equipment, we still know at the end of the session, you have to get up and walk out of the studio and into the rest of your life. And if you don't take care of your feet, you've got potentially a lot of problems working up and down the structure. So anyway, so we slide the fingers out from between the toes, keep the thumb where it is, wrap the hand around, and then slide the foot out a little bit. So here I'm working my left foot, so my left hand is cupping the heel, the thumb is on top, the other finger's underneath, and the heel rests in the palm of my hand. And then we twist the foot. So it's kind of surprising when you first do this to actually feel that that heel bone has a swing to it. It can swing in a curve. It's designed to do that. Like our feet have a design that is adaptive to walking on terrain, which unfortunately most of the time we don't do. We're typically locking our feet into shoes. Think about the sneakers that I love right now that have such big, thick soles, which really like protect my feet from impact when I walk, but it doesn't let me feel the ground underneath. And and then often we're walking on hard, flat surfaces, not on undulating terrain, right? So, but our feet were designed to adapt to whatever's underneath them. They tend to fall asleep if you don't give them some variation in their sensory diet. So here we are doing this. Okay, so after wringing out the feet, we'll pick up the knee, uncross the leg, bring the heel in front of you, maybe scoot back a little bit, don't fall off the back of your chair. And we can pull the toes apart and give each one a little wiggle. Stretching the toes away from the ball of the foot and the heel. And again, remember, if you decided to go for the very intensive toe release movement, you can work flexion, extension, rotation at each of the joints in your toes. We're not doing that right now. And then we're going to pull the feet and the toes apart from the central axis of the foot. So you flare the toes open first and let them kind of fall back in where they started. Like opening your hand in a game of poker. You want to look to see all the cards and then let them fold back up into one pile. And then we're going to pull the foot apart itself, the thumb and the heel of the thumb on top, moving from the center outward, and the fingers underneath, and then maybe even pick up the foot and work up into the arch. You can dig your fingernails in if that feels good, and work up into the base of the heel. Go back and forth a couple times here. And again, it's like magic. Look to see how the texture of your foot has changed, the color has changed, the feeling of ease and release has changed here in your foot. And then look at it. It's much more connected to the ground. Yes. And then we step up. Unfortunately, the other foot no longer looks like it did right after we first worked it, but both feet now are a lot more alert, alive, and responsive to the ground. So from here, we will pick up the ball, and we're going to do some standing footwork. So we'll begin back further. So you can take the ball, if you have one, if you don't have one, it's okay to do it without, but you could roll up a towel. Take it above your ankles and below sort of the curve, the swell of the interior calf here, feet apart, and then press the legs together enough that you feel some work through your inner line of your legs and the inner edges of your feet. We're going to begin by bending the knees forward. So you get the flexion at the ankle, the knee, and at the hip, and then push the ground away to come up. Do this from the side, so you can manage to keep the ball. So as you go down, your body stays pretty vertical. Think of lifting your tail out behind you, spreading and opening your sits bones, and then push the ground down, the tail drops, and you come upright. So we're going down again. Inhale to lower, bending ankle, knee, and hip socket. And exhale to straighten, arms hang at your side. Do it once more. Think of lowering the horizon with your eyes, and then lifting the horizon with your eyes. Now we go up into releve. So the weight will shift forward a little bit. You can lean slightly forward, put the weight into the balls of your feet, squeeze the ball. Think of squeezing the inner thighs around another imaginary ball, and then lower the feet with control. Now, you may want to use the arms to assist, right? So you can swing the arms out to the side and slightly forward as you go up. Whoop. And then exhale, lower down. What happened with me was I lost and I rolled a little bit to the outside of my right foot. So be sure that when you lift into releve, that you really press the ball and feel the ball of the big toe and the big toe itself. And then maintain that on the way down. Lift again. You might feel you're also using your glutes as you rise. And of course, still as you lower. And that happens, I believe, because we're tilted a little bit forward, so the back line of the body works to support you there. Go up high, and then bring it down. Yes, where people make a mistake on this is when they roll to the outside of their feet and go up, then they really can't stabilize themselves. They lose that inner line. So now we're going to add a deeper bend to the first one that we practiced. So we start first doing what they call a demi-plie. So you keep the heels grounded as you bend your knees forward. Then you can lift the arms out to the side, imagine holding a roller between your hands. You punch your knees forward, lift your heels, and you stand on the balls of your feet. From here, go up into releve, and then lower your heels down. So we bend the knees, straight forward, good, arms out, pick up the heels, balance on the balls of the feet, those are your metatarsals, pull yourself up, reach up through your head, and exhale to lower the heels with control. It's hard to resist gravity on the way down, isn't it? Let's do that one more time. So bend the knees. This is an amazing leg workout as well as a foot workout. Bring your knees forward, pick up your heels. Squeeze the ball, you want to feel the inside line as you lift to releve. And then slowly descend. Whew, good work. Now we're going to reverse it. So now that you've seen it from the side, I'm going to do it this way. So here we go, up into releve. Ready? And lift. Hug the ball. Bend your knees forward, the heels stay off of the floor. Now you keep your hips where they are as you lower the heels, and then straighten the legs, arms at your side. So arms out as you lift up to releve. Bend your knees forward. Crease also at the hip and the ankle, of course. And then lower the heels and straighten. We just go for one more. Inhale to lift to releve. Bend your knees forward, heels up. Heels go down and then straighten. Of course, what I should have mentioned at the very beginning, if you were concerned about balance, it'd be good to do this near a wall. But people here in the room with me, I knew would be all right. So I apologize if that caused any concern to anyone watching this on YouTube. All right, so we can take that out. And now just put the ball to the side. Now, since we are going to work on ballet stretches, I wanted to first just help everyone figure out like how you stand on one leg and really stay stable. Because what tends to happen to people, like if you're in a yoga class, for example, and you're doing trade, right, where you take the leg up. What most people do is they lean way out to the side on their standing leg and then pull the leg up. And you'll see people when they pick up their knee, they often shorten the waist on that side, so they hike up and then they're falling a little bit away from their lifted leg. So a good way to practice finding better balance and also using your core when you go to one-legged standing, start by taking your hands to your hip bones and really feel the curve under hip bones here. When you stand with equal weight into your feet, you can feel the hip bones are level. So now let's just try, I'm gonna pick up my left leg, you'll pick up your right if you're watching the screen, do whatever you want if you're here. So just pick up the heel, bend the knee, the toes are down, and then really push your hand into that hip with the bent knee. Keep the hip low as you pick up the leg and feel that you still have weight going through the sits bone of the lifted leg. So ideally, what you're hoping for, what you're working towards, is having minimal shift of your body away from that lifted leg. Let's try the other side. So you peel the heel off, you're on the metatarsal, the ball of your foot. Push down with your hip with that leg before you lift it. Keep the hip bones level as you bring the leg up. Lower the leg down and roll through the foot. And we do the other side. It's a really good practice to do this in front of a mirror. So you can see how steady you can be with your body. So you're not shifting your weight too much from side to side. There'll be a slight weight shift, of course. Another way to practice this, we don't have the large balls here, but if you had like a large stability ball, or sometimes called them Swiss balls, you could be sitting on the ball, pushing down through your sits bone and then picking up one leg at a time. By doing it on a ball like that too, the ball will amplify any instability that you have. So it's a nice way to practice like reaching down through your glute and your sits bone while you're lifting the leg from the hip socket, which is down here, remember. So we're picking up the leg, not the hip bone, and lower that down. Good, can you guys feel it? So what I feel like when I lift one leg here and I can keep my body stable, you can imagine here that you have an invisible leg underneath the glute with the leg lifted that goes straight to the floor. And you could also think that your sits bone is reaching down, like dropping like a stone, like a steel ball to the floor here. And then let's lower it down. You can also use imagery for this, standing on one leg. Let's pick up one leg. And think about that standing leg growing roots of the feet down deep into the ground, and then spreading wide under like all of Swarthmore or whatever town you're in. And then lower that foot down. We're gonna switch. and pick up the other leg. And now think of this standing leg like dropping into quicksand. So the quicksand comes up around the leg, around the knee, up to the thigh to hold you steady here. Lower the foot. Let's switch. Now think about your standing leg being like a vacuum cleaner and sucking the floor up through the sole of the foot, up through the leg like the hose of the vacuum, into the center of the belly, kind of the engine, place where the bag is. And then let's lower the foot. Switch again. Now think of your standing leg having a foot kind of like an octopus's tentacle with little suction cups on the bottom, and let your foot kind of spread and suction the floor up, sticking the foot to the ground. Switch again. One of my favorites too is that imaginary leg still under the leg that it lifts. And we can switch once more. And then why don't you pick whichever of those images you like the best. See how that goes on this leg. It's often different for different people. Like you might find that one works best for you. And that might be something you want to remember. Okay, and I wanted to practice this because we're about to do some of the ballet stretches Pilates adapted from his ballerinas that he worked with to help them when they were working through recovery. But it's always great for all of us to get some length into our legs in places that were tight. Let's talk about the hamstrings. Let's think about the hip flexors. All those things are good. Okay, so you can take a chair in front of you or stand here to elevate your foot on. This will tend to work a little bit better with your legs in external rotation. I think that some people prefer parallel, either is fine. If you have any concerns about your balance, you should be standing near a wall or have another chair near you so you can hold on to it. So let's start. Let's pick up your left leg. The hip is down, remember, and then extend the leg forward to rest the foot. Could be in rotation here, so you have a little bit more of the edge of the foot connected. And then arms out to the side. And even overhead for a little bit more balance challenge. And then we dive over. It's like doing a roll down from a standing position. Dive over and down to bring your fingertips to the chair, bend the knee if you need to. Get the stretch into your back and also into your hamstrings. And then you press through both feet as you sink the tail and stack your spine like you're zipping it up an imaginary wall. Where difficult would be to look up, right? And then you come forward. And with your gaze, you can go from point to point spotting. So that often is a little easier for people to find balance as opposed to letting their gaze sweep before, like a lighthouse beacon, sweeping the sky. And then press through both legs, come upright, and take your upper back extension if you want to, skip it if you don't. Come back to center, and we'll do this one more time. So you want to move smoothly, fluidly, dive through the air, bend your knee, if you need to, the front knee, the one that's on top, so you don't feel too much of a stretch at the back of your knee. You can also, you'll just naturally find you're going as low as possible. Your body's not going to go any lower than it will allow it to go. And then press into the floor and pull yourself up. Heart rises, chest expands. You come center and lower the arms down. Good job. And then we switch, taking that leg down. Maybe shake out your legs. The standing leg, you'll feel it in the outer hip, in the glute medius. So it's a good idea to swing your hips a little side to side in between doing these. And then we'll take the right foot up this time and place the foot on the chair, on your table, on your windowsill, whatever. And then the arms can come out to the side and then up, the shoulders drop. And then you look down and dive forward. Looking to the inside of the leg. If you can, you touch your fingertips to the surface, or you could hold on to the top of the chair seat. Diving over low enough to feel a stretch. Press through your legs And then sink your tail to the ground with the kangaroo's tail behind you. Take the upper back extension. Chest rises. Come back through neutral and then look down. The weight of your head pulls you out, over, down in a beautiful curve. Stretch forward here. You dive over, sucking the belly up into your back, just like you do in spine stretch. Spread your standing foot into the ground and sink it into the floor as you rise here. Take your upper back extension. We'll do one more on the side. Look at the horizon and look down. You can track your gaze point to point. Coming into, look directly down to the inside of the knee to the ground here. Shoulders widen on your back. And then you articulate up. Come all the way upright. Take your upper back extension, center, and the arms circle down. Good work. Now lower that foot, swing your hips side to side. And we'll next go into a bit of a lunge. You know what, these floors are a little slippery. Why don't you grab a mat and let's put the chair on the mat. Because on some of these, you're not going to have, it's going to be important for the chair really stable. Just the way that you're pushing your own weight into it might be more problematic. Okay, so here we're coming forward and doing a piriformis stretch. So you bring the edge of the foot out. This one, it might be better to have the back away from you, actually. And you'll pick up, I'm picking up my right leg, taking the edge of the foot in front of my opposite hip and letting the knee fall over to the side. And then you really square off the pelvis again. And you can hinge forward. So not really rounding, I'm trying to lift the tail up the wall behind me. And then go with the flat back down and over. Bring your hands to the chair surface, if you can, or to the back. And then you lean forward here, letting that leg rotate externally out to the side. Feel that stretch? I mean, it should be in your glute and in the piriformis muscle underneath it. The muscles that rotate the leg externally. And then we can come on up. Pick up the knee. And let's switch your legs. We'll also show you a seated version, which might be more effective, particularly if you're tight. I'm tighter on this side, I know for sure. And we spiral the knee open. So the main thing is you want to be careful that your knee doesn't torque, that you really keep the angle of the thigh the same as the angle of the foot. And then lift your tail and sits bones out behind you, so you're rotating the pelvis on your standing femur. And then you're going over, that's the thigh bone. And you go over, trying to elongate your spine from your halo to your tailbone. Lift the tail up the wall behind you. You all feel that stretch?
I feel more on the side.
You think
I think my angle is close enough. It's switch.
Yeah, I can also feel it in my hamstring too. And then come on up. And then lower that down. So the seated one, let's just review that because it's a nice option. This is a place that many of us are tight and not necessarily symmetrically. So if you know that you're tight in like sitting cross-legged on the floor, you may want to stretch. I'm going to stretch my left leg forward, pick up my right knee, and then rotate the leg from the hip joint out and over to the side. So then you can flex the foot on the thigh. If it feels like a little too easy, then you slide your left foot back in. And the advantage to sitting on a chair for this, and it's even better if it's a hard surface, like these are cushioned, but you should be able to feel both of your sits bones into the chair, lengthen up and then hinge forward, lift your tail and sits bones up behind you, and you dive over until you feel the stretch. Does that feel a little more intense than the standing version?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it can be for sure. And then the advantage here is you can rock your legs from side to side to also like kind of tease some of the fibers open. And then we come upright, unwind the leg, don't torque out the knee. So rotate the leg from the hip socket again, and then lower that down. Feels different in the hip here. And then let's stretch the right leg forward, pick up the left leg, and then rotate it externally out. And then if you want, you slide that foot underneath you, lift up, equal weight on the two sits bones. And then you hinge forward here. If you feel a twinge in the knee, back off immediately, right? If it feels okay in the knee, but you just feel like you're like stretching some tightness that's held in the hip, that's good, that's what we want. And then you have the option of like rocking the knees side to side. If you don't feel it enough, try to lean out in your plank and bring your chest lower. So you can go to whatever stretch like just suits your body. Sometimes we hear a little whimpering in the class when we do this. It's usually me. And then you can come upright, pick up the knee, unwind, and then lower down. So that's great. So the piriformis muscle actually goes from the center of your sacrum, that big triangular bone here, on the diagonal, to the greater trochanter here, which is like the top of the outside of the thigh bone before it angles in and goes deep into the socket. So it goes across on this diagonal here, and it does get tight for all kinds of reasons. Okay, good. So now we're coming up. And we're going to do a lunge. So you just stand facing your chair. Take one foot up so the ball of the foot is on the edge of the chair. And then you can lean forward into it. Keep your back heel grounded. Feel that stretch. I mean, you can bring your hands forward to the chair, to the back of the chair, to your leg, whatever works for you, to the wall, if you have one near you. Feel that stretch. And then you can push back. We'll just go into it over time. Lunging here, sharp deep crease in that right hip. And then push away. Let's switch your legs. Left foot up.
You're still turn out?
I have mine in parallel right now. Thanks for asking. And then drop the hip down. You lunge in, a deeper crease in the hip as you come forward. Your both heels reaching down for the ground. And you reach out through your head and out through your tail to elongate your spine. And what Harley is also doing with the arm extended, which is also lovely, gets a little more load away from center. It's a bit more of a balance challenge too.
I'm just trying to see how much I can trust myself knee.
Oh,
that's what I got that surgery on.
Great. Okay, and let's do, was that two? I think I have one more. A good part. So obviously you want to be steady across both feet, right? For this. And then you push back, and we lower the leg down. So now we're going into some side bending. So you're going to stand a little further back away from the chair, stand and turn out, and then you can pick up the closest leg to the chair, take it out on the side on an angle, rotate that leg externally. So you can turn sideways to the chair. As long as you feel like it's open enough, like the closer you are to it, the further back it is, the more stretch you feel in your inner thigh. But you might want to take it a little bit more forward so that the stretch feels like comfortable, but still get the stretch to the inner thigh line. Okay, and then from here, take your outside arm out to the side, and then up, and we side bend over towards the chair, towards the lifted leg. And then pull yourself upright, arms extend, and then side bend away from the chair. Now watch that this hip doesn't lift. If you stretch from the hip bone up through your waist and your ribs, the hand cups in front of the belly, and then we lift to come up. Switch the arms. Now here you can lean your forearm into the leg to kind of push it down and increase the stretch. Double check that you're really feeling the stretch in your side seam as you go over and the ear falls towards the ground. Pull yourself upright and then take it over again, away from the chair without lifting that inner hip. Pull up and we'll lower the arm down, lower this down, and we'll go to the other side. So take it here. Fine. And then we pick up the other leg, take it out. Legs give you an external rotation, the hip is dropped. Both femur is dropped, the thigh bone is dropped. And first side bend towards the lifted leg. Coming back up. And then side bend away. Pull up from the hip to the waist, to the ribs, to the armpit, and one more over. Lift coming up, and side bend over here. Come up to center, and then we can lower the leg down. Other side, or a lunge. You can move the other side of the chair. I'm just tied to the camera here. So, okay, so hands to hips, externally rotate the legs. You're gonna bring the leg up into the side with a bent knee. You have that opening across the front of the pelvis, across the inner thigh. And then you push the knee forward over the toe, but you're trying to lean your body a little bit forward in front of you as you push the knee slightly back. So you want to feel a stretch across the upper inner thigh and across the front of the pelvis here. And then you can ease back, and we do that again. Pull it open. Come forward. So I'm not angling my body over the leg. I'm trying to keep my chest to the wall in front of me. And the hips come forward too. And then come on back, and we switch sides. Up. You can push the knee a little bit back as the knee goes over the toes. You pull the chest forward. This one, it would have been better to have the yoga mat underneath the chair, but if I fall, pick me up, okay?
So you're gripping your toes.
I am. It's like, keep the chair underneath me, please. And then come back. And then do one more. My other foot is really suctioned deep into the floor. And then come back. Good. All right. Now, we're going to put the chair here so you're facing the back of the chair to do a quad stretch. So you can hold on to the top of the chair and then bring one heel up towards your sits bone and try to drop the knee straight to the ground. Now, if you're tight in your quad, which mine are feeling tight, I have to say. So what will happen is the knee needs to come a little forward, but try to pull it back and straight down. And then you can even lift your chest and go into a little upper back extension to get more stretch through the psoas, your hip flexor, maybe even pushing the forward with the glute to open the hip a little bit more. And of course, if you want to challenge your balance, you bring the arm free of the chair. Start with just coming a little bit off the chair. And then take that down, and we do the other side. You always want to be sure that the knee is happy with this. And if it's too hard to get your hands back to this, like you're feeling your butt, you could do this using like a TheraBand or a belt, some kind of loop to hold the foot behind you. A lot of times you'll see people with the yoga strap, they make the loop at one end and they bring the strap over their back to hold their foot up like that. Again, add the arch, lift the chest, and release it down. Just gonna do one more thing. We'll take a quick minute here to do a great calf stretch for you. Here, your hands on the chair seat. One heel goes all the way back, press the heel into the floor, the other knee is bent. So you're in a lunge. Feet in parallel, and then just swing your hips a little side to side. So the back calf gets stretched, medial to lateral, and back again. And then you can also leave your back heel down, or slightly bend the back knee and then straighten it. So the stretch works up and down the calf from the soleus, the deeper lower calf muscle, to the upper one, the gastrocnemius, and back again. And then step forward. Of course, if this is hard on your wrist, you could go onto your forearms. And we'll take the other leg back. Swing the tail maybe towards the back leg a little bit. And then once you get the stretch that you're looking for in your back calf, wag your tail from side to side, just a little. Feel the stretch go from side to side across the back of the calf muscle. Come center, you can slightly bend and then straighten the knee. The torso stays elongated. And then we'll step forward, push the ground, and come up. Thank you for being here with me today. That was so fun, great. And next week, we'll be back on the mat again for more Pilates. Thanks for joining us today, and see you soon.